Hello guys, good evening. Am I audible? Can you all see me? We'll just get started in a minute or two. Let more of our friends join and then we will get started. Tonight's topic is very important, very easy but very important, right? So let me just grab my bottle of water and you also do it for yours. And let's just start in a minute, okay? Okay. I see that your friends have not joined in yet. Okay. Yeah, does any one of you have a doubt? Just a second, guys. Just a second. Yeah, I guess one of you has a doubt. Let me just unmute Ajit. Yeah, brother, go ahead. Do you have something to say? Okay, I'm just muting you back. Anyways, so if you have any doubts, you can ask it in the chat as well. Let me just enable chatting for you guys. Yeah, now you can start sending messages as well. Okay, so I'll just wait for a couple of minutes, and only because we have started class, we have preponed the class, right? We have made it to start from 7 p.m. That's the only reason I'm stopping. I'm waiting for a couple of more minutes. Ajit, you can just ask it out in the chat. I tried unmuting you, but you couldn't ask it there. So maybe let's just continue with the chat one, right? Also, in tonight's class, we also have a very special session arranged for you. We will study functions from 7 to 8 p.m., right, for 1 hour. And then after that, you have a special resume building session. Okay. So we have a special guest for that. We have someone who is an expert in that. So as you know, I know coding, so I'm teaching you how to code. And then she's someone who is very experienced with how the resumes are made. She has interviewed a lot of people, so she has seen the interviews as well. I mean, so that's going to be more relevant for you. And no matter what stage of programming you are at, one day or the other, you are going to apply for companies, right? So your resume is always going to play a key role in that. So the session that we have from 8 to 9, the resume building session, is going to be relevant for you, like in any case, right? Whether you are a pro in programming or whether you are just a newbie, right? You're just getting started. And in the end of that session, like we have in our class, in the end of that session, you will have the option to, ask questions as well. So you can use chat, Q&A, you can unmute yourself. It all depends on how many questions you have, how you want to ask your questions, but you will have questions. Okay. After diploma, what will I do? What do you want to do, Rajneesh? You can do a lot of things. So like in which sector are you talking about? Do you want a coding job? And then we can start talking, right? If there is something else, then maybe you need another mentor. Okay. Also, people who are joining in for the first time tonight, let me share my LinkedIn once again. Yeah. So you can connect with me as well. And if you have any specific doubts, like Rajneesh has, right? You can connect with me there as well. Yes. So Rajneesh, especially for you and obviously for all others as well, I'm sharing this link with you. Okay. Anyways, we have 20 people, not a lot of people as compared to what we have regularly. But yeah, let's just get started. So first, I'll tell you what we did in the last class, and then we will start with today's agenda. Okay. So what we did in the last class was fairly simple, but then again, as compared to what we have seen, it was a level up. I would not deny that. Okay. So yesterday we have covered nested loops, and that is a better topic, or you can say that offers a wider range of questions as compared to the previous topics that we have seen, right? So understanding the idea of nested loops is really very crucial for all of you, right? And just make sure you're solving all the assignments of the topic nested loops. Because what we have covered yesterday, as I took the poll yesterday in the end of the class, I saw that almost all of you are clear with that, right? And that will happen, right? Because in the class, we feel that everything is okay because I am here to guide you and you can see the code in front of you and you can see the output as well. But when you do it on your own, only then you will truly gain the knowledge, or the, you can say, yeah, you will truly gain the knowledge, or you will truly see the implementation that you would want to see in nested loops, right? So especially I'm focusing so much on solving assignments after the topic of nested loops, because now you should start solving. If you haven't already, now is the high time, because we have already had 5 classes, one for basics of computer programming, variables, data types, conditional statements, loops, nested loops. So we have had 5 classes. Now half of the bootcamp is remaining. We only have 5 more classes left. Okay, so to get the maximum of the bootcamp, you should start solving assignments now. And as I told you yesterday also, you have a lot of help available on the portal itself, right? You can use the assistance option that we have, and that will solve all your possible doubts. Okay, so make sure you're using the portal wisely and make sure you are taking the advantage of all the resources that have been provided. Okay, and by resources, I mean mainly the portal, right? The notes and everything is obviously there, but especially the portal, right? This portal is your best friend. Okay, watch the videos from here. You can watch lecture recordings from here, right? And primarily, mainly, you can solve questions from here, right? You can see all the questions that we can solve, that we will solve in today's class. Okay, acha. So yesterday we have covered nested loops. Nesting in programming means putting something inside of other, right? So you have one thing already, you have a block of code. Now, if you are introducing another block of code inside that, that is nesting. So in terms of nested loops, what will nesting mean? You have one loop, inside of that you put another loop, right? So loop within a loop is what is a nested loop, right? And we saw the examples also. We saw the pattern printing questions. Let me just quickly go through that so that you have a better picture of what to imagine, right? Where is that question that we solved? Right angle, this one, right? So so you have a loop here, right? You can see this outer loop. Inside of this loop, you have another loop. You can see. So a loop inside of a loop. This concept is called as nesting. And there's nothing special here, because we talked about it in the first class. If you want to repeat a particular action, you can just put that action inside of the loops. Now, if I am putting a loop within another loop, nothing has changed, right? Now, each time I'm getting inside the loop, I will be seeing another loop and I will be getting inside of that as well. So that's just all that has changed. Okay, it's just a new implementation that we have seen. Theoretically, logically, we have not seen anything new. So nested loops is also, I mean, theoretically, it's, the theory is the same as what we saw in loops. Okay. Anyways, no matter how long I keep speaking on nested loops, the true understanding will only come when you start solving those assignments. Okay. And as I told you in the revision class, this is the most, you can say, most asked topic. This is the most commonly revised topic. Okay. So that's why I'm telling you it's very crucial. And to take the best advantage of the bootcamp and the revision class at the end, it's very essential that you solve all these assignments right now. Okay. If you face any issue now, it is very highly likely that that will be resolved. Otherwise, if you just pass all the days, then you will also get lazy, right? Because then you will not have any support or anything. Then you will not have the live classes to keep you regular with coding. Okay. So just make sure you are starting the assignments now. Okay. And in today's class, we are going to start with a very, 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 very important concept. I can't stress on how important it is. I can just say that so far what we have seen, this is kind of the most used topic, right? Obviously, you will use all the previous topics as well. They are so basic that you just can't write any code without that. But this is a stepping stone for becoming a great programmer from just a programmer. Okay, so I'll tell you how, and I'll tell you why I'm saying all these things regarding today's topic, which is functions, right? So before I tell you what functions are, I think people who have attended my classes before would know. First, I discuss why do we need a particular concept, right? So I won't directly go ahead and tell you what a function is, what it does, what are the powers that it has. I will first try and tell you why do we even need functions in the first place? Can we not code without functions? Without knowing what functions are, can we not survive? Can we not write our code? Maybe we can, and maybe we cannot. We don't know the answer. But the point is, so far in the classes, so far, we did not know what functions are, and everything is working fine for us, right? Everything is working fine for us. And another reason for that is because we have just started, right? We are only having limited functionalities. We are only seeing some small segments of code. But when you join your jobs, when you actually start coding, and when you enter the main course and you start studying some more and more advanced concepts, will your life, like, is your life possible without knowing functions? Let's just find out the answer to that. Okay, so before I tell you what functions are, as I told you, I will first tell you why we need functions. Okay, so let's imagine, right? Now forget coding, forget JavaScript, forget that you know anything about coding. I also don't know anything, you also don't know anything. Let's just have a discussion around functions with a fresh mind. Okay, now imagine, right? All of us can imagine, right? So use your brain. Imagine that you have, a particular code, a particular code that works for a particular application that is responsible for building a particular software. So you have, thousands of lines of code. Okay, in that code, maybe there is something that you want to do repeatedly. Okay, maybe there's something that you want to do repeatedly. So for example, okay, so what we do is, I'm telling you a real life example. In our coding, right, in our code that we have written for your pre-codes, for all these things, you can see this one thing, right? If I just go to the PAP selection page, you would also be seeing a similar page, and you can always see this, right? Cutoff is 550 and your score is 110, right? So for us as coders, as the people responsible for all this application, it is very important for me to determine what your current assignment score is, right? And it's a very important functionality. And in multiple places in my code, I would want to know the current assignment score of the student, right? I would want to know the current assignment score of the student. Now let's imagine. So this is my whole code. This is my whole code, right? Maybe thousands of lines, right? 7,000 lines of code, right? And in that, there is a 10-line logic. There's a small logic, right? There are 10 lines of code. Let me just write it like this. There are 10 lines of code which tell me the current score of a particular student, the current assignment score, right? So these 10 lines of code tell me the current assignment score. Now, this is my whole code. This is the first place where I need to use this logic. Now, let's say there is another place in my code where I want to get the current assignment score for a student. What will I do? Based on the information that you have so far, what will I do? You will say, sir, you already know the logic. You know that these 10 lines or these 7-8 lines of code can help you get the current assignment score of the student. So what you can do is, you can just take these 7-8 lines, just copy them and paste them wherever you need. I will say, okay, there is nothing wrong with this approach, right? It sounds fine to me. So what I will do is, I will just take these 7-8 lines of code and I will paste it here also. I will just paste it here also, right? Now what I will do? Now, maybe I will need it in 4-5 different places again. 4-5 different places. I've already used it in 2 places. Now I need it at 4-5 more places, right? So in Hindi, ये code which helps me to get the current assignment score, जो current assignment score को लाने में मेरी help करता है, ये code मैंने already 2 जगह पे लिखा हुआ है. अब मैं ये चाह रहा हूं कि मेरे कोड में 4-5 जगह और मुझे करंट असाइनमेंट स्कोर चाहिए बच्चों का. तो मैं क्या करूंगा? At all those, switching back to English, right? At all those 4-5 places, I would need to write these 7-8 lines of code. So here also I will write it. Here also I will write it. So all I am trying to tell you here is, I have a very big file of code. In that file, there are some 10 lines of code which are responsible for telling me what is the current assignment score for a student, right? What is the current assignment score for a student? So there are 10 lines of code which tell me the current assignment score. Now what I'm doing here is, wherever I need the current assignment score of my student, what am I doing? I am going and copy pasting these 10 lines of code. Seems fine to us. You would also say, sir, this is fine. It will work fine because we have verified the logic once. This is how we calculate the score of assignment or the assignment score for a student. So let's just use it everywhere. What is the issue? Let me tell you the issue. Okay. So let's say right now we also take the MCQ score in assignments, right? So you can see my score 110. Let me quickly demonstrate this point. Okay. So let me just open an MCQ. This is an MCQ, right? What it says, why do we need programming languages to communicate with computers? Just help me out with this. Quickly tell me, what should be the answer? Computers cannot understand human languages. It makes the computer faster. It is a fun hobby. Computers prefer programming languages. I know the options are a little bit tricky, but if you think carefully, the straightforward answer is written in front of you. A, right? Because it's simply not possible for the computers to understand our languages, Hindi, English, because they are ambiguous. We need programming languages. That is what we have already discussed. So if I just submit it, correct answer, all is good, right? Very good. Let's just go back to this page. See, the score got updated. From 110, it became 115 because MCQ is for 5 marks. Now, what I want to do is, I want to make sure that now in the updated logic, because students are only solving MCQs, they are not solving my coding assignments. So I am angry. And now what I do is, I stop counting the assignment, the MCQ score in the assignments, right? I stop counting the MCQ score in the assignment. What have I done? I have introduced a change in the logic. Now, the older 10 lines of code, which were able to calculate the current assignment score, will need some change, right? I will need to change that logic. And what will I need to do? I think you can relate it with the variables example that I gave you in the first class, right? What will I need to do? Those changes, I will have to make those changes here also, here also, here also, and here also. So what is the disadvantage here? What is the disadvantage? It is time consuming. It is time consuming. And I've already told you, you guys are going to become software developers. Your job is to solve problems, not to create problems, right? So if you are taking this much time just to update the logic of one thing, like what good are you, right? आपकी जरूरत ही क्या है? अगर मुझे इतना टाइम वेस्ट ही करना था तो मैं कुछ और कर लेता. Why did I hire you as a programmer? So that you can save my time, so that you can provide me a better solution. So if you take all the time in rectifying a small thing, in updating a small logic, when will you code a new feature for me? When will you build a new software for me? As your employer, I'm just thinking about these questions, right? So this much time we cannot invest is in something so small. In something so basic, I cannot spend this much time. Second problem, right? What is the second problem? Data inconsistency. Inconsistency, what does it mean in Hindi? कहीं पे कुछ है, कहीं पे कुछ है. एक जगह फंक्शन बता रहा है कि एमसीक्यू को भी ले लो, एक जगह फंक्शन बता रहा है कि एमसीक्यू का स्कोर मत काउंट करो, राइट? सो व्हाट डज इनकंसिस्टेंसी मीन? लेट्स से आई एम अ ह्यूमन बीइंग, you are a human being, we are very smart, we are software developers, so we are smarter than the average people, but we are humans at the end of the day, so we can also make mistakes. Now what happens is, I make the changes here, here, and here, but because boss was very angry and boss wanted me to do it as soon as possible, I forgot to do it here. I could not make the change here. What will happen now? For some students, in some places, the score for MCQ will be taken into account, right? So for some students, the assignment score will be, let's say 200, 250. But for the other students, for the same amount of coding questions, their score can be 80, 90, 100. So you see, this can create a problem for us because the other set of students will start complaining, we have also solved MCQs, you have not given marks to us. So do you see? Because of this small inconsistency, your user experience. So when you will become software developers, this is also something that is going to be your responsibility, your user experience. That is going to get suffered, right? That is going to be a problem for you because your users will not be happy, because for some something else is happening, and for some other users or maybe on some other page the logic is different. So people will start creating these kind of start complaining about these kind of issues. So do you now understand that if I have the same 10 lines of code which can help me get the current assignment score, and I'm using just copy pasting those 10 lines of code everywhere, the problem is, first, it is time consuming to copy paste every time. And the second problem, which is a bigger one, copy paste to chalo, I will just do it for once, right? I have a very small task, I copy pasted, I just completed my job. But now when the time comes for updating the logic, that, updating the logic, it has a very high tendency to create inconsistency. Would it not be very good if I just had stored this logic in one place? If I had stored this logic in one place and used it everywhere else, I have just stored this logic inside of a function block, right? Something like this. This is the block of code which gets me the assignment score. I call it Ramu. Right? I call it Ramu. And now whenever I want to get the assignment score, I will just keep referring to Ramu. You want the assignment score? Go to Ramu. You want the assignment score here? Go to Ramu. You want the assignment score here? Go to Ramu. You want the assignment score here? Just go and call Ramu. That's what I will do. So this is a very logical way to go about it, right? I will just enclose this piece of code at some one place and so at some particular place, and each time I want to get or I want to use this particular logic, I will just call it. Okay, I will just use that particular code by referring to it. So maybe I'm just enclosing this block of code and I'm calling it Ramu, and wherever I need it, I will just call it. Okay, you want to get the assignment score? Just take help from Ramu. So would that not be a better way to go about it? That, okay, the whole logic is written in one place. Now, whenever I want to use that logic, I'm just writing the name and using that particular logic, right? So that is the solution. I started telling you how and what functions are, but let's just go back one step and try to understand, are we all 100% crystal clear with what is going on here and what is the problem here? And the second issue is, like the third issue is, I told you a coding principle when we were studying loops: do not repeat yourself, right? Do not repeat yourself, right? So what am I doing here? I am violating that principle, right? Because I used this particular logic once, and now I'm copy pasting that logic everywhere, which is as good as printing console.log manually 10 times, right? So this is against the do not repeat yourself principle. So all in all, it is not giving a very good vibe as such. It's not giving a very good picture, right? Something is wrong here. How to fix that? That is our next step. But something is wrong here. And can you also feel it? Can you also realize that, okay, these three are real problems which should not be there? Or it would be very good if we can get rid of these problems in some way. So are you able to identify the problem? So taking the first poll here, people who are joining in for the first time, poll is like a voting system. If you understood a concept, click on yes. If you did not understand the concept, just click on no and then press submit, right? Okay, someone said, I joined the class in middle, I can't understand, and then they left the class. Very nice. This way you will never understand it. So I think our LOC will also increase if we copy and paste many times. Length of code, do you mean by LOC? I don't know what that term means. Jonathan has a very valid point, right? Very basic, very valid. If we unnecessarily keep copy pasting the code everywhere, let's say this time I'm giving you an example which will be 10 lines long. What if the logic is 50 lines long? This way, we will introduce 250 extra lines of code in our particular software, which is not a very good thing to do, because the longer your code will look, the scarier it will be for you. to look back at it, right? Okay. Therefore, we unnecessarily, yeah, Jonathan, very valid point, right? So we don't really want to do that. Okay, I can see that not most of you are convinced with why we need functions. I can spend 5 more minutes on that, right? Because only 70% of you are clear, which is not a very good number, considering that 4650 people have joined. Acha, let me just discuss this whole thing once again. For people who have joined in the middle, I'm repeating the whole thing, but I'm not going to do it later. This is the last time. Acha. So tonight's topic is functions. I was just telling you, why do we need functions, right? Why do we even need functions? Okay. So the first point here is the first thing that we are discussing here is why? Just because people study functions, do we need to study functions as well? No. I will first try to tell you why we need functions. If you are convinced, only then we will go ahead, right? And since you are not, I am going to convince you once again. Okay. So let's consider a very simple example, right? In our code base, because you are our bootcamp students, our pre-course students, right? You have not joined the main course yet. So in our code, how do we handle this thing? This is a very important metric for us, your current assignment score. This is how we determine how serious a particular student is, right? I mean, this is one of the ways how we determine. So it is very crucial for us to understand what is the current assignment score of a particular student. Okay. Now, what happens is, as soon as you solve a particular assignment, this score increases, right? So let me just demonstrate it once more for the people who have joined in now. In most programming languages, variable names are case sensitive. What does it mean? So case sensitive basically means small case. If you have written something in small case, that is different. That is going to be interpreted differently. And if you have written something in uppercase, that is going to be interpreted differently, right? Two variable names can be written in any case. The variable names can be written in any case. Let's see what are the other options. Variable names must always be in uppercase. No. Variable names must always be in lowercase. No. The variable names are treated as separate if they have different cases. So what this particular sentence means is, this is a different variable and this is a different variable, right? Just because I have made it capital, I have changed the case from lowercase to uppercase. This is a different variable. This is a different variable, right? So these are two different variables. So that is what it means. And let me just go ahead and submit it. Just clear all this. Correct answer, right? That is not the main point. You could see before I came to this page, my assignment score was 115. Now let me just go back. Okay, this is in this particular topic. Let's go back to the page. See, the assignment score has now become 120. So you see how we are calculating your assignment score at every point in time, right? So it's very crucial for us. Let's assume that getting the assignment score of a student requires 10 lines of code, right? So this is my 10 lines of code. Let me just clear the clutter from here. This is my 10 lines of code, which I am using when I want to get the assignment score. Now, because we are doing a lot of analysis on how our students are performing, right? So I would need these 10 lines of code in a lot of places. I would need to get the current assignment score of a student in a lot of places, right? So what I do is, I need the current assignment score here also. So I just copy pasted these lines. I just copied these 10 lines, pasted it here. So now I can get my assignment score here also. Then I needed it here also. So I just copied those 10 lines of code, which can get me the current score, and pasted it here. Copied the 10 lines of code and pasted it here. That is what I keep doing, and that is fine. Because this logic is known to work correctly. This logic will correctly get me the assignment score of students, right? So I keep doing this and I keep doing this. But now, what are the issues? The first issue here is that it is time consuming because we are copy pasting every time. We are repeating the code every time, right? And also, I'll directly come to the third point here because all of you can relate to it. I told you a coding principle that we should always follow. Do not repeat yourself. And that is why we studied loops in the first place. Because to print hello world 5 times, you can write console.log, console.log, console.log 5 times. That is one approach that you can follow. But we still studied loops. because that is not the smart way to do it, because we don't repeat ourselves. We write it once and we use it multiple times. That is how we approach the problems. Same is the issue here. You are repeating the same line of code, the same lines of code in multiple places in your program, which is simply not done. Okay, what is the second issue? Now tomorrow, what our manager says is, okay, so this is a real possibility. People are only solving MCQ questions. People are not solving their coding questions. So I don't want to count the score of MCQ questions in the assignment score. So please, Bhavya, just remove the logic for adding MCQs in the assignment score and only add coding question score in the assignment score. I'll say, okay, I'll do it. What will I have to do? I will have to update the logic here also. I will have to update the logic here also, here also, here also. And if I've used it at any other place, there also, right? So I will have to go to every place and update the logic at every place, right? Okay, that is also fine, but that is time consuming. Now the issue here is, what if? I'm not saying I will do it, but what if? Because I'm also a human being, I can make mistakes. What if I forget to make the change here? At one place, the assignment score is still taking MCQ score into account. तो एक जगह पे अभी भी MCQ का स्कोर काउंट कर रहे हैं असाइनमेंट स्कोर में. So what is the like problem here? So the problem here is I just when I said what is the problem, I just got reminded of the character that we had in FIR. Do you guys remember Gopi Gandotra? He used to say, what is the problem is the, and do you guys remember that? I don't know. I mean, it's very famous show, very famous TV show in the North India at least, right? Anyways, coming back to the topic here, this is going to introduce inconsistency, right? In one place, MCQ score is being taken into account. At all the other places, the logic is updated. So what will happen? Students, you guys will start complaining कि सर मेरा तो MCQ का स्कोर उसमें काउंट ही नहीं किया, वो धर्मेश का तो कर लिया, ये क्या. That is, you will start complaining, right? That my MCQ score did not get counted for the assignment score. And then we will have to think of a fix for this. So you see how one mistake of yours can lead to added work on you only, right? Now, if you have made this mistake, you only are going to fix it, right? So this mistake was unnecessary, right? We could have avoided it if we had a way that, okay, these are the 10 lines of code. These 10 lines of code can get me the current assignment score. So what I will do is, I will just put these 10 lines of code inside a box. And what I will do is, I will call this box as Ramu. Okay, now whenever I need to get the assignment score, what I will do is, I need the assignment score here. I will just go ahead and say, talk to Ramu. Go to Ramu, get the assignment score. Here also I will say, go to Ramu, get the assignment score. And when I am saying go to Ramu, that's basically what? These lines of code will be executed and the correct assignment score will be given from there, will be calculated from there, right? Here also I will say, go to Ramu and get the correct assignment score. Now, if tomorrow I have to change the logic, I will have to change it only inside this particular box of code, only inside of Ramu, right? That way the logic will be updated everywhere. So I have stepped a little bit like further, but let's forget the Ramu part of the discussion. But do you now realize what the problem is? And if we can solve it, first of all, we don't know whether we can solve it or not, but obviously, because we are having this class and I'm discussing these problems, so obviously, you know what the solution is going to be because today's class is on functions. But keeping that apart, are you now able to understand what the problems are, the existing problems, if and when we don't know functions? So I'm just launching the poll once more to know if you can understand the problem now. Okay, because earlier you could not do that. Back wala class kaise kare? Ujjwal, so basically, if you have missed any class, you can watch the recordings. I'll quickly show you how you can watch the recordings, right? Let me just do it while the other people are responding to the poll. Let's say, so this is the page I told you, right? This page is your best friend. This page has, very sorry. This page has let me just drink some water, please. This page has all the information that you need. So let's say you want to watch the recording for nested loops class. You will go to the videos part and you can see the live class recording. So if you just play it, my recording will play, right? I'll just quickly show you. What is it? Okay, let's watch this one. Yeah, if I just forward to this place, you see. Just let me know. So the same example that I was giving, right? Asking here is, okay, do you guys, anyways, so you can just access the recordings like this by going to the videos tab inside a particular topic. Let's get back to functions. Acha. Okay, I see that only 26 people have responded to the poll, but the good thing is that all of them are saying yes. So I guess this time we did a good job of explaining it, right? Now let's get to the solution part. Okay, this is the problem. But now your question will be, okay, this is the problem. And if functions can solve these problems, we are convinced. If functions can solve these problems, we are ready to learn functions, right? So obviously the answer is functions can solve all these problems. And before I go ahead, let me just tell you what functions are, right? What functions are. So functions, in a very simple definition, in very simple words, functions are block of code that perform a specific task, right? So functions are block of code that can perform a specific task, right? So basically, what I will do is I will create a function like this. I will write some logic inside of that. I will give it a name, let's say Ramu. Obviously, when we write actual code, we don't call our functions Ramu. We give it meaningful names. For example, if I talk about the example that we were taking earlier, student assignment score, the name of that function will be calculate assignment score, right? So this is the kind of name that we give to our functions, a meaningful name, right? So that just by looking at the name of the function, you can have a basic picture of what that function does, of what is the logic written inside of it, right? So we take those 10 lines of code, right? Whatever is useful to us, we put it inside of a box. I'm giving you a very non-coding analogy so that you can relate to it, and we give it a name also. Now, wherever in my code I want to do this particular job, only thing I will have to do it, technically, I'm using the technical word here, call the function. So you can write the function like this. Okay, I will tell you how exactly we will do it. You can write the function, and what you will do is when you would want to use the function, you can just call it, right? So function is like a machine, right? Think of it as a, like you can say maybe a fryer, right? So you put raw potato inside of it, and you get finger chips, or you get the French fries, whatever you guys call it, right? So you put the cut potato inside of oil inside the fryer, and what do you get is as a result? You get the proper like French fries. Okay, so that is what a function does. You give it an input, and you get an output of that out of that function. So to give you a mental picture, or to give you a picture of how to visualize functions, think of it as a black box, right? You don't really care what is happening inside. You don't really care what kind of wiring is present here, right? All you care about is I will give it something and I will get certain output. So think of functions like that. Okay. Now the point is, okay, sir, you always keep talking a lot about theory. How exactly are we going to use it in JavaScript, right? That is what you guys are interested in. So now let's discuss the syntax for creating the functions. Sorry. And then we will see the syntax for using the functions, because obviously we are not only here to create the functions. We ultimately want to use the functions that we create, right? So in JavaScript, it is very simple, very straightforward. First of all, let me just tell you, there are multiple ways of creating functions in JavaScript. We are only going to restrict ourselves to the very basic way of creating functions for today's class. In tomorrow's class, when we will discuss taking user input, we will stress on the other type of functions that JavaScript has to offer. Okay, acha. So let's focus on how to create a very basic function in JavaScript. So let me tell you, in today's class, we are not going to see anything new in terms of concept. This is just, function is just a good way, a good logical way to, adjust your code, to, make your code better, to make it, you can say, logically, we are not going to learn anything new. It's just a new way to tell you how to place your code, right? That is the only thing we are learning in today's class. So logically, everything is known to us now. Loops, conditionals, console.log, printing on the screen, all these things are very clear to us. Mathematical operations, relational operations. We have learned a lot of things in the past 5 days, okay? Anyways, so let's just see how to create a function. You write the word function, then you give the function name, right? And then you give round brackets. What are these round brackets for? List of input parameters. I'm just calling it params for now. List of input params or input parameters, right? And then, as you have seen so far, what do these curly brackets do? Now you will tell me. Tell me quickly. What do these curly brackets do? We have seen it in conditionals also, in for loop or while loop also. So what do these curly brackets do for us? Tell me. I see no answer in the chat. I'll not move on until you tell me. We put the code which we need. Yeah, very good. You can't write outside that. Muzammil, almost there. I need the crisp answer, right? Something that I keep saying, right? So I guess maybe you guys are confused. So let me just tell you once more. These brackets mark the start and end of a coding block. Coding block, right? So whatever we put inside of here is going to be called as, what is it going to contain? The actual logic, the actual code for the function. And what is it called? It's often called as the function body. It's often called as the function body, right? And it's very, 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 very simple. Let me demonstrate by giving a very simple example, for the, for getting started, for beginning. Okay. So I want to create a function which adds two numbers and prints the result. Okay. So how will I do that? So function. And what is the name? Let's give a logical name. So add two numbers. And what is the input that I'm going to keep here? So you can just mention it like this. Maybe A, B, right? Something like this. So these are the two numbers that you need, right? These are the two numbers that you need. And let's see whether this will do the job or we will have to do something else. So what you will do is, now these are the two numbers which are passed to you. What you will do is, let sum is equal to A plus B. And then what? Console.log sum. Okay. And what you will do, now this is the function that is created, right? The function is created now. And this is the function body and everything. So when you create a function, the process of creating a function is also called as defining a function. Because you're telling what the function will do, right? So this part is also called as function definition. Now it's also very crucial that we know, okay, the function is created. How do I use it? I created this function so that I can start using it, right? So how to do that? For that, we need to know the syntax for a function call, right? So what is a function call? It's very intuitive, right? So if you need the help of a friend, what will you do? You will call your friend, ki bhai, I need to discuss something, or maybe I need your help, or maybe just bring 10 guys along with you and I need to beat someone. That's what you do, right? You call your friends. In the same way, when you need the help of a function, what you are going to do is you are going to call the function, right? And that is a technical term, calling the function. And how do you make the call to a function? Very easy. This is the easiest part. You write the function name, you give the round brackets, and inside of this, you pass the inputs. So how will you call the above function? How will you call this function? Add two numbers. Add two numbers, 5, 6. Let me just demonstrate this whole thing to you, right? Let's open any question. Right, go to JavaScript. Just for a second, right? So function add two numbers. I am expecting two input parameters here, and then I'm starting my logic. What is my logic? Sum is equal to a plus b, and then what? Console.log that sum. I want to print out that sum. The function is declared here. The function is defined properly, but it is a dead sleeping piece of code unless you call it, right? So your friend is available there to help. Your friend can help you, but how will your friend get to know that you need you need his help, right? How will your friend get to know that you need his help? You will have to call him. You will have to tell him. So when we call a function, when we call the function add two numbers, it is our way of telling the function that, brother, I need you. Just do your thing and give me the output, right? Just do whatever calculation you want to do and tell me the result, right? That is how we use functions, right? So add two numbers. See, it was already giving me the suggestion, so I just use the shortcut. Let me show it once again. It's giving me the suggestion, right? It's showing an F here, which represents functions. So I'm just taking help of that. And now I'm passing two numbers here. Let's see if it works or not. If what I'm saying is correct, what will happen? This line will be implemented. So it will go line by line. It will see this thing. It will say, okay, a function is defined. I can't do anything. It is just defined. I will do something if this function is called also, right? So function is defined. Very good. It will just ignore it. And now it comes to this line. Okay, the function is called. Now I need to go to this function. Now I need to go to this function and execute every line inside of it. So JavaScript will not call or will not execute these lines of code automatically. It will only execute these lines of code if you call the function. And it will keep doing that each time you call the function. Okay, so let me just demonstrate to you. If what I'm saying is correct, this line will be executed. As a result of this line, we will come here and then we will get inside the function and we will execute all the lines inside the function. And then what? Let's see. If console.log sum happens, we should get 5 plus 6, 11 printed on the screen. You can see, right? So are you comfortable with the basic example that we saw? Now, guys, this is a very simple operation and I could have done it without functions also, right? But in this class today, my intention is to get the basic idea of functions clear to you. Now, this function will not complain if instead of 2 lines, I write 20 lines of logic inside of it. The function will not complain. It will work just fine. But to demonstrate the idea to you, to demonstrate this new placement of code to you, what I'm trying to do here is I am writing some small piece of code here and I'm just showing you how calling the function will actually execute it. Now, if I just comment this line, and I run the code, nothing will happen. And that will prove to you, let's just wait, right? See, no output appeared. So I'm just proving to you that if only the function is written, it is never called, nothing will happen. No code will be executed. But if I call it, so if a friend is there, he is ready to help you, but he doesn't know when to help. He will just stay there. He will just keep sleeping. But if you call him, you ask for help, then he will come and help you. In the same way, if you call the function, only then There is a point, right? Only then it will be executed, it will be activated, and you will get the result, right? So are you comfortable with this basic idea of using the functions? Launching the poll once more. Also having a look at the chat and the Q&A. I see. Brother, I guess anonymous attendee, you joined late, but I guess I repeated the whole thing, so it would have helped, right? Uh, what if we want to update the function in only one place and want an updated version of the function in some other place? After in that case, if you want to selectively update, you will create a new function, right? So that's the only thing that will happen, because see, in majority of the places you need the correct logic, right? But if you need a specific logic in one place, you will write that specific logic. That is not repetition of code. That is entirely a new logic. So you're allowed to write a new logic there, right? That's what you will do. Okay, Roshni had answered earlier. Block of code. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Very nice. Let me have a look at the chat also. Just a second. Why not define the variable type in the parameter? Jonathan, so I guess you are familiar with other programming languages. We don't have the funda of variable types in JavaScript. You just need to mention the variable. And yes, you are right. Here you can pass a string also, and it will just try to do the same thing. Okay. I'll just talk like later with you if you have any more doubts with this, right? But the point is, in JavaScript, you don't really care about the type of variables because there isn't any, right? Can we use shortcuts like numbers is equal to no? Muzammil, you can, but you should not. So while we are practicing, while you are coding inside of AccioJob only, you can do that. In fact, you see what are the variables that I am taking. I am giving you all this knowledge about meaningful names, and I'm just giving A and B here, where I should give maybe num1, num2, so that it is better communicated that what these variables represent, right? So while we are learning, we don't really pay a lot of attention, but we should. Yeah, but so it will work. It will not stop executing. The logic will be perfectly fine. But as a best practice or as a good way to do it, we always, write the complete word to make it more meaningful, right? So that's your answer. Can you do it? Yes. Can you do it by practicing? Go ahead. But if you are writing the actual code for a company, avoid doing that. Okay, unless you have a very hard deadline. Okay. Constructor concept in JavaScript. Aishwarya, obviously there is. Yes, there is, but we are not going to study it right now. There is that concept. Guys, if you have doubts, I can see that you guys have doubts. Please go ahead and ask it, right? And now I have only showed you a limited functionality. It is my function. Let me call it multiple times. 5, 6, 560. 20, 13, and let's just write 3 and 0, -10 and -20. So here I should see 11 as I was seeing, 65, 33, 3, -30. Let's see what happens. 11, 65, 33, 3, -30. Do you get my point? I did the same thing only. I did the same thing, but I did it multiple times with multiple values. And right now, you might not be able to enjoy it as much as I want you to. But later on, when we see more advanced concepts or more, you can say complex logics, then the advantage of functions, becomes manifold. Okay. So let's do one thing, right? Let's understand one more thing and solve actual questions so that you will have the feeling that you are learning something. Okay. So let's just discuss one more concept and then solve questions. Ek second, na. Tell in Telugu language. Neelam, I really wish I could, but I only know a few words in Telugu. Ela unnavu. So I guess that means how are you? And that's all I know. But I'm really sorry. Do we focus on JavaScript? So Jonathan, in this bootcamp, yes. For the next 5 days, yes. But if we talk about the main course offering that we have, the actual course that we enroll students in, that is available in both Java and JavaScript. But for the next 5 days, this bootcamp that we are having will be in JavaScript because we have started in JavaScript this time, right? So mainly it's going to be in Java only, right? Anyways, now there is one very important concept that I want you guys to understand. In this function that I just showed you, that I just created, what happened? I did something. I just printed it out there, and that is all. I just printed that particular value which I wanted to print. In a lot of cases, let me just save it for you guys later. Right, I'll just give it back to you. Acha. So, in a lot of functions, what happens is from, the place from where the function was called, that place expects some output, right? So, for example, I am using the get student score function, right? I'm using the get student score function, student assignment score. And I'm, let me just do one thing, right? I'm already continuing some logic. I'm already in between a logic. And then I am calling this particular function, right? And let's say I want to calculate the score for student Bhavya, right? So this will just go ahead and tell me the score for Bhavya. Okay. Now, sorry. What I want to do is I want to use this score and do something else on it, right? I want to say that if, so let's say I do something like this. Okay, I do something like this. It's going to become very real now. Let score is equal to this. Okay. So what I need to do is if score is greater than 300, I will call him a good student. Else, I will call him a no student is bad. What should I call the student? Okay student. Right? This one is definitely good. If someone is not solving assignments, I just can't call them a bad student, right? Maybe they are good, but they are just not solving assignments. But the student who is solving assignments is definitely good, right? So good, good student, okay student, right? This is the logic. Moral of the story is, like, the focus of the story is, I want to use the score that I'm getting from this function. So in a lot of places, what we need to do is we need to pass some value from our function. After we are done, writing the logic, performing the calculations, we need to pass back a logical value, an answer, that if the function was called, what is expected from this function? It is expected that this function passes me or returns the value of the score to me, right? So to return something, to pass a value back, or to return something from our function, we use a very, very, very simple line of code. We use a very simple statement, and it is very intuitive. You can guess the name. It is called as the return statement, right? So this time, instead of, let me just do it once more. Really sorry. Instead of printing the sum here, I want to return the value of sum. I want to return the value of sum. So how will this machine look like? This is the machine. I don't care how it works, right? It will just take two inputs, right? A and then B, and it it will give me some output, right? It will give me the value of sum, right? So input, output. That is the kind of relationship I am having now. Okay, so it will just pass back a value to me. Now I will have to use that value. So let's say sum, or let's call it something else. Let addition, or let result. That's a good reasonable name, right? Let result is equal to add two numbers, and I'm calling it on 5 and 15. So I told you, right? Semicolon is optional in JavaScript. You can or cannot use it. It's up to you. Let result is equal to this. And now I want to print the result, right? Console dot log, or let's do one thing, right? If result is greater than 30, console.log. So basically, do you see what's happening here? I want to use the result that I have gotten from the function. I want to use the result, right? So what will I do here? Console.log hello, else console.log world. Some random logic, right? So what will happen now? Result will store what is returned from the add two numbers function. So what what will be returned? First of all, we will go here. Sum is equal to num1 plus num2. So 5 plus 15, 20. Return sum. So return 20. So 20 will be returned as a result of this function. So what will my result store? What will my result variable store? 20. Result is equal to 20. Result is greater than 30. Print hello, otherwise print world. Because result is 20, we can see it. What should be the output here? World. Let's see if that happens or not, right? Let's see if that happens. See, so what happens? What is the moral of the story that I'm trying to say for the last 10 minutes? It might happen that you want to use the value that a particular function is returning. So how will you return a value from a function? Using the return statement, right? Using the return statement. So as soon as, let me just write these points down, very important points, right? So question, how to return a value from a function. So this is how you will do it. Return and then whatever value you want to return, right? So here value is the value that you want to return from the function, right? Another important point that I want to mention here is when you use the return statement. So basically, as soon as you reach the return statement, return statement is basically the statement that begins with return. Okay. As soon as you reach the return statement, you return from the function. So it's like you go inside the function, you are executing the logic, right? And then you reach the return statement. So it's like the function is trying to tell you that go back, you're done. Just return from here. So what will you do? You are just you just obey what the code asks you to do, right? I mean, the compiler, the computer, it's just going to obey what what the code is saying to it. So if it asks the particular, the control of the program to return from there, it will just return, right? So as soon as you encounter the return statement in a function, you go back from that point. You go back to the place from where the function was called, right? From that line of the code only, you just go back. You don't go beyond the return statement and execute the remaining function. If you encounter the return statement in between, you will just go back. So bottom line is, as soon as you see the return statement in a particular function, you will just go back from there, right? You will just go back from there, and that's all. And where will you go? You will go to the place, sorry, you will go to the place. People are joining in for the resume building session. Just wait for a couple of minutes. I am sure Asa is also here. We'll just get started in a couple of minutes. Till then, I'm just finishing the explanation that I had started, right? So, okay, you will go back to the place from where the function was called, right? So having said that, I will just complete this question and then I will allow you to continue with your resume building session. But just 1 or 2 more minutes, right? People are joining in for the resume session. Just give me 2 more minutes, right? So we don't need main method in JavaScript. No, Jonathan, I think you are from C++ or Java. And yes, we don't necessarily need a main function here. We don't need that, right? Okay. Anyways, Jonathan, I see you for the first time. Like, it's good to see you. Anyways, so the first problem that we have in functions, very simple, very straightforward, very like lightweight problem. It's a very casual problem. Write a function. So write a function as write the code for the function such that the function will be called, and I am another function will be printed. This is disappointing. I mean, very simple question, right? So all you want to do is you want to print something inside of this function, sorry. And what do you want? What do you want to do? You just want to call the function, right? So the learning point of this question is just to tell you how to call a function, right? So we have already discussed that, but for the sake of it, let's just solve it formally. I am another function, right? I am another function. So I am another function. Okay. Now what will happen? Because I have called it here, what will happen? This function will be executed. And the only thing that is there to get executed in this function is this simple line. So it is just like the simple console.log that we have been seeing so far. It's just that this time it is present inside of a function, right? So what we are doing, we are calling the function. When the call is made to the function, we go to the function definition where the whole function logic is written. We get inside and then we execute each line of code line by line sequentially, right? There is only one line of code here. So this line will be executed. Something will be printed on the screen and that's all. Then we reach the end of the function. So we will just come here and then we reach the end of the whole thing because nothing is present after the call to this function. So we are done. The only output that we will receive is I am another function. Let's see if it works or not. And let me just promote Astha to a panelist till then. Astha, can you just text me just to confirm that it's you only? Just once. Yes. Okay. So, Rashmita, oh, hello. Rashmita, today's recording will be available at a few minutes after 9 p.m., right? Because Astha will finish her session till then. Okay, we see. I am another function is already printed. Let me quickly submit the code and then I'll hand over to Astha. See, it's working. So don't worry. Today's class has ended a little bit early. Tomorrow also we will continue this discussion along with seeing how to take user input in JavaScript, right? And having said that, I'll just hand over to Asta. One last comment before I leave. So people who have some doubts in the functions topic, right? You can just reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. It's completely fine. That's all I want to say. And now let me just make Astha the host for this one. Okay, anyways, so it's going to be a very great session, right? I have seen Astha taking this session a lot of times, and there is a reason why I teach coding to you, and we specially call Astha. So, see, whenever we need something, Astha is the specialist for telling you how to build your resume. So now, if I need to tell you how to build your resume, I'm not going to do it myself. I'm going to call my friend who knows how to build resume, and she is then going to help you out. So it's exactly like your function call, right? So I called her, she showed up for the session, and now when she is going to take the session, that's like execution of the code inside the function, right? So let's see, it's going to be a very good execution of the function, and you will hopefully learn a lot of new things from her on how to build your resume. Having said that, I'll just hand it over to Asta now. Okay, Asta, thank you and sorry for the delay.
Sure. Thank you so much, Bhavya. And good evening, guys. I hope all of you are doing well. So I'll just share my screen. Is it visible to everyone? Anyone confirm? Is my screen visible? Okay, fine. Just give me 2 minutes. I'll share the same. Uh, Bhavya, just 2 minutes. I'm rejoining again.